Hello, everyone. Today, we have the absolute pleasure of being joined by Marvin McGuire, the co founder and managing partner of Heartsill Capital Partners. Marvin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me, Harris.
It's an absolute pleasure. Pleasure's all mine. We're really excited to have you on. So let's get straight into it.
Let's
So,
go.
Marvin, could you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, perhaps the early ages, and your journey getting to the position you're in today, as well as obviously what you do now and a little bit about the business?
Certainly, certainly. Well, I grew up in the great state of Texas in the United States, with cowboy hats and cowboy boots and all of that fun stuff. And spent
Amazing.
my childhood there and then went off to join the Navy once I graduated from high school. And I spent the next 25 years in the United States Navy, retired
Interesting.
in 2013. And then I spent 10 years in corporate IT sales, finishing up that career with IBM here in the
Ah,
United States. And
interesting.
then that was 2023. And, I've been married to the same beautiful wife for the last 32 years. And over the course of our marriage and kind of careers, we had kind of invested in single family rentals and single family, single homes as rental properties over the years. And in 23, we had probably a half a dozen of those properties that we were kind of managing around the southeastern United States. And really started running into unexpected expenses and bad tenants, and just both of us got super frustrated and said, hey, we love real estate, we love the value of real estate, how can we kind of take this passion and scale this passion to try to build something special for our children and for our extended family and friends and even complete strangers. And
Amazing.
so we decided, we started a business to syndicate multifamily commercial real estate, which is basically helping people invest in apartment complexes. So, simply put, we buy and sell apartment complexes in the southeastern United States. Our intention is to double people's money in 5 years. So that's what we're really passionate about. That's where we are right now.
Amazing, amazing. And what does your role look like at the business? Are you very much focused on the growth? Are you very much focused on the forward planning, or are you still involved in the ins and outs and, I guess dealing with the team? What does your overall, role look like within the company?
Oh, that's a great question. My overarching role is the vision, growth and vision of the company. So I'm constantly, researching markets, reaching out to brokers in our target markets, and then working with investors. Once we find a deal, like my wife is an amazing analyst and underwriter. So if I'll
Okay.
find a deal or another one of our partners finds a deal, they'll give it to my wife. They'll send it to Victoria. She does an incredible job of analyzing these properties and making sure they kind of fit our buying criteria, and they're going to be profitable enough to really, level up our investors and reward our investors for their trust. And
Yeah.
my job is really to go out and get those investors and find those investors and say, hey, we have this incredible deal. It's going to cash flow and provide monthly passive income checks. And are you willing and interested in potentially partnering with us and the team?
Yeah. Amazing, amazing. And I guess the typical day for yourself, what does that look like? Are you very much going out, meeting investors? Are you driving across country and even across states? What does that sort of day to day look like for yourself?
It varies every day. That's a fun question because like
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, we were in Houston looking at our latest property and talking to the property management team there and really going over the business plan about how we're going to, we buy quality complexes, but, our goal is to make them, we always say we're trying to create a win-win-win, a win for the tenants, the people that live there. We're trying to make the community nicer
Yep.
because that's really, really, really important to us. We're trying to make a winning situation, obviously, for our investors and help them make money and double their income and create passive income streams. And then finally, we're trying to make money. So this is what we do for a
Absolutely.
living every day. So to get back to your questions, like 2 weeks ago, we were in Houston, spending a couple days with the team there. Yesterday, I spent all day on the phone with investors. We've got a new deal coming out in a couple weeks. Tomorrow, I'm having lunch with several investors. So just kind of preparing. I'm always, meeting with investors, trying to get new investors because we've got, the market is changing. And I know we're going to talk about the market a little later in the conversation, but the market is changing and we're really starting to see some exciting deals out there. So that's kind of how I spend my days. I spend a lot of time on social media trying to educate people about the benefits of multifamily investing. It's a little bit of coming and going and a little bit of staying and working online.
Amazing. Marvin, what part of your journey, or perhaps an area of your growth that you've been on, did you learn the most from? And what lesson did you have to learn to be able to level up to the next level of your journey? Right. I guess what took you from being in your previous role, right, to actually being the sort of entrepreneur and business owner you are today? What area or what did you need to learn to be able to progress to that?
I think there are two key things. And the first would be, getting comfortable with kind of looking silly to 80% of people.
Yeah.
Because when I first started to tell people, hey, we're gonna start buying and selling apartment complexes. I can't tell you how many people said, you're gonna do what? And doesn't that take millions and millions and millions of dollars that you don't have? I know you and you're not rich, kind of thing. So a lot of people just said, hey, you're out of your mind. And then the second thing would be, overcoming fear and just really taking action. So, and those kind of things play on each other. You don't want to look stupid to people or silly, but you got to get comfortable with that. And even when you become comfortable with that, you still got to take that first step. So it's kind of a push, pull, and they work together. So I'd say those two things, if you can get comfortable looking silly to your family and friends and complete strangers, and then you get past that and you're still willing to take action, then you can really make something special happen.
Amazing. Very well said, Marvin. Thank you for that. Now, I guess coming very nicely onto our next area of discussion is industry trends. So, what are some significant trends or shifts in the industry that you've noticed or seen, and how do you see them panning out in the next few months and years to come?
Great question. Well, there's a couple of trends that we're really, probably two or three that we're super excited about. One, we invest really in the southeastern United States, and for the last couple of years, the insurance rates in the southeastern United States, call it, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Texas, Alabama, those states along that southeastern, portion of the United States have just been hammered with incredibly high and rapidly increasing insurance rates. And we're starting to see those rates settle and even decrease in a lot of our target markets. So that's really, really exciting. And then another trend that we're seeing is in 24 and this first half of 25, the new construction in apartments has just been through the roof. So we've just been seeing a lot of new apartment inventory flooding the market. And when that happens, the laws of the supply and demand take over. And if you've got a lot of supply, that drives prices down and drives rents down. So we're seeing a lot of that new construction, new inventory be sucked up. We call it absorption. The supply is dropping off. The last half of this year, we need about 430 to 475 new apartment units every year just to kind of stay level. In the last 2 years, it's been well above 500,000 and even in some markets up to 600,000. Well, next year, a lot of our target markets are going down in the twos and threes. So that supply and demand is really going to start working in our favor as demand is staying strong. So we think rents will increase. These deals we'll start to see much better deals. And then finally, the other trend that we like is a lot of these major metros, call it Tampa, Houston, Charlotte, Atlanta, are the markets with, inventory coming online. But what we really like to see is a lot of the smaller markets, not the Orlando or the Tampa, but the Lakeland, the smaller markets where a lot of people may not be tracking or may not be aware of, are really starting to pick up pace and show great possibility.
Amazing. Now, I guess the question I had is, what do you think that's contributed the most to your success within business and within the industry? And, what are some ways you're able to navigate the changes that are happening through government, through compliance, through legislation? And what makes you so able to adapt so quickly? And I guess what has led to your success overall in business?
I think recognizing that any business, in particular, real estate investing, but any business is a team sport.
Okay.
You say, hey, I'm going to go start a business, or I'm the co-founder or the founder or the CEO or whatever. That's the wrong perspective. starting a business, and our business includes multiple partners. I mean, we've got great insurance brokers, we've got great debt brokers, we've got great commercial real estate brokers, we have great general contractors that do our renovations, we have great property management companies. So recognizing that anything you do in business is a team sport, whether you have employees or you don't have direct employees, to be successful, you've got to have a team and a good team, and you've got to treat that team right with respect and integrity and incentivize them correctly. And I would think, and that the second kind of lesson or thing that I've learned is that network or that team is also the answer to the second part of your question, is how I've been able to stay abreast of changes and new regulations and new laws, because I'm constantly talking to commercial brokers and property management companies and debt brokers and lenders, and they all, they're focused on their industry. Hey, the debt brokers are focused on the capital markets, and the property management companies are focused on property management rules and trends and regulations, and the commercial real estate brokers are the same exact way. So if I'm keeping in touch with each of those in my network, I can really get the latest and greatest without trying to do all the research myself.
Amazing, very well said. I guess, to summarize, your first analogy was pretty much, if you look at it in terms of sports, instead of perhaps trying to be the star player and the person who's trying to do everything, perhaps more of a coach mentality where you're actually bringing together the best of players that can perform the best overall in terms of winning that overall game. So rather than you as a business owner trying to perform your best, and you might have big days, you might have, losing days, but if you're able to build that team, then you might be able to drop the ball, but you have your team behind you who can sort of pick that up. Is that something you'd agree with?
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And I'm a sports fan,
Amazing.
so that's spot on.
Amazing. And I guess your second point was actually very interesting about being in touch with not just what's happening, but what people are doing, what people are thinking about. So I guess you've made a very good point there that a lot of people are worried about themselves and their business. But perhaps if you keep in touch, you're able to then understand what's happening in each industry, and you kind of allows you to forward plan. So that's quite interesting. And I've not really heard that. So where does that come from? Is that just your curiosity to know what's going on everywhere, or is that just something that's happened by chance?
I mean, I think it's intentional for sure. And I think, it goes back to more of a core desire. I like people. I like talking to people. I care about people. And when you care somebody, you give them a call. Hey man, how you doing? What's going on in your life? I mean, I've got real estate brokers in our markets that I consider friends, and I call like, hey man, what's going on? How's your mom? How's your kids? What'd you do this weekend? And we'll get to business. We'll get to business. We'll get to deals. We'll get to changes in the market and stuff like that. But it's first and foremost about a relationship. And when people think you're genuinely interested in them, you're not just interested in them because of what they can do for you or what they can provide for you. You'd be surprised what happens. Special things happen when you develop a network of authentic relationships, and that's what I try to build with my network.
Amazing, amazing. Very well said there, Marvin. Now, another trend I wanted to get your thoughts on, and obviously you mentioned it, and happy to dig a lot deeper, is this trend that's exploded in the past 10, 15 years, is only going to get bigger, is social media and the power of social media. I know you mentioned that you're very big on social media and that's something that's part of your day to day. What kind of impact has social media made on your business and even within the industry? And how do you see social media panning out to be able to help businesses elevate and drive forward growth? What's your overall
Oh,
take on that?
yeah, 100%, 100%. I think now to go back, I didn't say I was big on social media. I said I work on it a lot. I would love to be, that viral content creator. I think it would help my business a great deal. But I work at social media a lot.
Yes, that's what I meant.
I am, yeah, of course, but I'm a firm believer that probably in today's market, in today's environment, the quickest way to scale your business and really level up is to have a robust social media presence.
Yep.
And have a team that really understands what's working and what's not working on each individual platform. It is I really focus on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram. And just in the last year, I've raised, well over $1 million, almost $2 million on those platforms. And it's from people, that I may, some I've known and some I've never met, but have been able to develop a relationship with over the last, several months. And, if you work at it and you're consistent, I think social media is an incredible platform. And I think we're really just getting started on it for sure.
What are some ways that you're actually looking to leverage social media, and how do you see actually social media benefiting yourself? Are you very much in terms of getting seen and people knowing who you are? Are you very much in terms of providing value and education? How do you use social media to your advantage? And perhaps what are some ways you're perhaps looking to adapt and involve social media even more in your strategy for business growth?
I mean, I use social media currently to educate because I think there's so many people interested in our business about how to, reap the benefits of investing in commercial real estate that really don't understand what the possibilities are. I mean, I've got a lot of my friends that didn't even know you could do it. And, in full transparency, I didn't know you could invest in commercial real estate, specifically apartment complexes, until about 3.5 years ago. So it was really, for me, an eye opener because I didn't know about it myself. So, I try to educate people and really, kind of genuinely try to help them understand what it's all about, the benefits, the risk, the rewards, and all of that. And then simultaneously, I hope that, I'm hoping that helps me build a brand of trust and integrity and authenticity.
Amazing. Very well said, Marvin. Now, Marvin, I guess if we come on to the next topic is very much business focused and honing in on the business. So what are some aspects and areas of the business that are going really well and going strength to strength? And what are some reasons for that, I guess? And what are some areas that perhaps you're having some challenges and problems? And, what are some ways you're looking to overcome those challenges?
Okay, that's a great question. I think things that are going well, are, like I had said earlier, the market has kind of shifted and we're seeing a lot of, we call it deal flow. So we're seeing a lot more opportunities come across our desk that are interesting and, more that are making, at least a little sense, over in 23 and early 24, we didn't see near as many deals, and the deals that we did see were like, that doesn't make any sense at all. We're seeing a lot more deals, and every third or fourth deal, you're like, man, that's kind of interesting. Maybe let's dig into that one. So I'd say that's really something that's exciting, and we think the market conditions, like I mentioned earlier, are really kind of stacking up to make the next several years really good opportunity. Things that aren't going so well, I need to do a better job in my social media about really getting specific, talking about the deals that we've done or conversations that I've had. Recently, I've really just focused on education, education, education. And I think that's important, but I really need to kind of try to personalize it, from my personal journey and experience a little bit more.
Absolutely, very well said. Now, a big trend at the minute I wanted to get your thoughts on is AI. In the last year, 2 years, AI has absolutely blown up. What are your overall thoughts on AI and artificial intelligence and automation and things like that? Is that something you've already started to implement within the business? Are you taking advantage of advancing technology, or is that something perhaps you're on the fence about? What is your overall take on that?
Oh,
Is that
goodness.
something you're already
We're fully
implementing?
embracing it. We're fully embracing it. I think you're either going to embrace it or you're going to get run over and left behind. So we use, obviously Chat GPT and Notebook LM and 11 Labs and Claude and Dolly. And so we're really trying to stay as engaged as physically possible in emerging technology. Now, I will caveat that I think that there's a risk,
Yeah,
that a lot of people, they go all in and then they forget the value of the human touch and the human experience. So it is a fine balance. You can go into Chat GPT and say, create me a social media post about the benefits of investing in multifamily real estate, and it'll spit something out that's amazing. But if you lose sight that you're posting it and people want to know about your journey and your experience and your failures and your successes, you basically what I'm saying is you got to take that AI, which is amazing, and just make it human. And if you can do that and you can really effectively balance that, it can be an incredible tool to use.
absolutely. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. When I speak to business owners all over the world, we have this discussion about finding that balance because Where do you find that balance in terms of using AI to improve operations and efficiency and cut costs, but also keep that human touch that customers really still want, right? Because if everybody's interacting with robots and robots are interacting back, then what essence of humanity do you have left? And
Yeah,
I
what do
think
we do?
some people absolutely, and I think some people still like that human touch to know someone's at the end of the phone, someone can understand their emotions. Because AI might be great, but it doesn't have the capacity to have that human reasoning or human emotional intelligence. So I think if you're able to combine that and find that balance, that's kind of the sweet spot. Would you agree? Absolutely. Amazing. Amazing. And I guess, Marvin, what does the future look like for yourself and the company? You know, the next 6 to 12 months, what are some goals on the vision board? How are you looking to take the company to the next level? And what are some goals you've set out for yourself and the company?
Sure, sure. Well, we are, to this point, we've only really focused on multifamily buying and selling apartment complexes. We are going to start offering, I call them assisted living facilities, senior living, kind of the opportunity to invest in senior living assets. Just because of the demographics in America right now, with our baby boomer generation is really, really aging rapidly, and the
Yeah,
demand for senior living and the demographics and the supply and demand laws that I talked about earlier just really point to a period of the next 6 to 8 years where those assets are really going to be in demand. A goal, like I said earlier, a goal is to start bringing a new asset class, which is a different asset class for us, to our investors, and really generate some excitement and some momentum around a new asset class. And then for the 12 to 18 months, my wife and I are building along with a partner, a very close partner, a tiny home community in Raleigh, North Carolina. And
okay.
we just completed phase one, and we're hoping to have phase two, and we're hoping to have the project completed in the next 12 to 18 months. And we're super excited about that. It's really close to downtown Raleigh, and it's kind of tailored towards the digital nomad community. And we've gotten really, really great reviews on the first 2 units in the prototype. And we had the mayor of Raleigh, North Carolina there about 2 weeks ago, and she just thought it was amazing. So we're super excited about that project.
Amazing. I mean, that's exciting to hear. I mean, when speaking to some other business owners, I think they get to a point where they've achieved success, they've achieved, metrics, and they're actually after chasing impact and making a difference in the community and perhaps leaving a legacy. Do you think with these kind of projects, you're at that point now where you actually are more, I guess, invested in making impact and making a difference and a change in the community for the better? Is that something you think you're leading towards, or is that something you think is more down the line for yourself? Or perhaps what kind of stage are you at?
I think we're kind of in a transition. I think we're still in that stage where we're really trying to build something scale and build something even bigger, because I think the next several years will be a great period to build something really special. But we're also we've got a dual approach, because that project in Raleigh is, if we're able to complete it the way that we all intend to, which I'm confident that we will be, it's going to disrupt the affordable housing market. It's really, I mean, we've had interest from leadership in Las Vegas and Boston, Singapore. We signed an agreement in Patagonia for a village. So we've had global interest in the model, not only for the affordability reasons, but the assets are very high end, and so they serve a couple of different purposes. They'll serve your digital nomads, but they also there's an affordability play as well.
Amazing, amazing. And in terms of, I guess, just wrapping up on biggest piece of advice. So obviously, a lot of people listening, a lot of people really excited to hear your thoughts. But what is the biggest piece of advice you've learned the hard way, or perhaps the biggest piece of advice you wish you knew when you start your journey that somebody listening would really find a lot of benefit from?
Everybody had to do their first deal. Everybody has a day one. So, you're going to feel like an imposter when you first start. Like, hey, I don't know how to open a business. I don't know how to invest in real estate. I don't know how to host a podcast. Everybody had a day one, and you just got to get past day one. And then you got to get past day two, and then you got to get past day three. I had a conversation with a friend of mine last night, an investor and close friend of mine last night. And he said, man, I can remember, I like to hike, and we go hiking twice a year. And he's like, I can remember when we went on our hike in the spring of 23, and you told me you were going to start buying and selling apartment complexes. And now look at you. You have almost 1,000 units, over $100 million under management. You're building a tiny home community in Raleigh. You're about to offer a new access class to your investors, and you're going to open a franchise here shortly, and that's 2 years. So he's like, man, if you had asked me 2 years ago where we would be and what we'd have experienced and all the things that we have learned, I would have called you crazy, Harris. But I would just encourage people to get past their day one because everybody's had one.
Absolutely. And I think perhaps even to add to that is don't stop when things aren't going your way, right? You might, for example, be on day 2 or 3, but it's a a long journey, right? But it's not to say it's not a guaranteed one or a successful one just because perhaps you're not seeing results on day 2 or day 3. I think a lot of people, maybe even a month in, 2 months in, kind of feel as right, this isn't for me. But I guess you could attest to perseverance and actually keep going. Oh, I guess any touching points on that?
I love that. I love that. My wife is a big marathon runner, and she has a poster or a little thing in her room that says every marathon starts with the first step.
Yeah.
So I mean, and then she runs so much, and it says, every, all the miles you run, the marathon's just the last 26.2. Because it's all that training and all of that. So people only see the success. We've talked about social media. People only see the success on social media. Rarely do you see like, I had the lousiest day ever, and my star employee quit, or I lost all this money. You rarely see that on social media, but that's those stuff those things happen every day. People don't people just don't share those. So, it happens to everybody. Just like you said, just keep going, keep pressing ahead, persevere.
Absolutely. Well, Marvin, thank you very much. I've really, really enjoyed myself. Thank you for an amazing podcast episode. A lot of value, a lot of detail. So thank you very much. I'm sure a lot of people listening have really enjoyed themselves. So massive pleasure to have you on. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. I really
Perfect.
enjoyed it, Chris.
Thank you. Any, I guess, closing comments for the people listening, or obviously your social media and everything will be in the description. But anything before we do wrap up? Closing comments.
I would tell people if they're ever interested, reach out. I tell people there's never any expectation or pressure. I'm just trying to build relationships and educate people and tell them about what works and what's worked for my families. So I'm a pretty transparent guy. So never hesitate to reach out.
Amazing. Well, Marvin, thank you very much. And thanks for everyone who has tuned in. And I guess we'll catch everyone next time.